How's it going, everyone? Want to cover a story that I think it's worthwhile covering. Ultimately, will it lead to anything? I don't know, but it is the PlayStation class action lawsuit that is going on in regards to the PlayStation Store, the prices, and the monopoly that PlayStation has over digital gaming, etc., etc. A topic that I've covered quite a lot as far as digital game store price points are concerned, but we have an update on this. According to Reuters, a United States District Court judge from the Northern District of California has rejected a Sony-approved settlement over a PlayStation Store credits class action lawsuit. This is coming from WCCF Tech. The plaintiffs claim that Sony overcharged for digital games distributed through its monopolized PlayStation Store, and Sony agreed to settle the lawsuit by allocating $7.8 million in PlayStation Store credits to millions of PlayStation Network users. Now, how that money would be divvied up among PlayStation Network users, I have no idea, but a lot of cases whenever these class action lawsuits happen, you would rather just come to an agreement, pay X amount of dollars, and just move on from it, because $7.8 million in PlayStation Store credits, yes, that sounds like a lot. Overall, that is a drop in the bucket to the overall income that PlayStation and Sony brings in. A judge, however, has denied the settlement for a variety of reasons, including the fact that coupon settlements such as this one are generally disfavored, noting the motion fails to include an estimated recovery had the proposed class prevailed on each claim, and it fails to provide any estimate of the discount applied to the claims. Importantly, though, the motion acknowledges the potential damages were smaller than initially contemplated. The motion provides no estimated class recovery given that discovery. These shortcomings alone warrant denial of the motion for preliminary approval because it prevents the court from meaningfully assessing the fairness of the proposed settlement. Any renewed motion for preliminary approval must include a chart setting forth the anticipated breakdown of the $7.85 million settlement distribution, including amounts estimated for attorney fees, service awards, costs, administration expenses, and other amounts to be paid. Remember that when it comes to these class action lawsuits, the big winners are the lawyers that are involved, and ultimately, as far as the plaintiffs, people that are thinking that they're gonna be benefited, yeah, maybe you'll get a little bit of a benefit here and there, but the lawyers are the ones that are making out like bandits, and yeah, W's in the chat for them. But from the resulting net settlement amount, they shall provide a ballpark estimate or range of amounts to be distributed to each settlement class member. Moreover, the settlement calls for class members to receive compensation in the form of cash value PlayStation Network account credits. The court views such PSN account credits as settlement coupons, which are generally disfavored. That is hilarious, as they're looking for compensation based on PlayStation's monopoly within the digital gaming storefront, but PlayStation here is gonna give you credits that will reinforce their monopoly in the digital gaming storefront. I find that to be a little bit hilarious as far as the optics are concerned, which I don't see that many people talking about it, because if they could just move on from a class action lawsuit like this, water under the bridge, operation continues as normal. Ultimately, it's not about the PlayStation Store prices right now. Right now, a lot of it is egregious. I go back to Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as physical gaming is more so phased out, we won't even have a comparison point, and I assure you this is where Sony ultimately wants to be, where the bulk of people are buying their games digitally, and there might be a few games that are released physically. You know how back in the day that we would get like the Super Stardust HDs and the Castle Crashers and the Shadow Complexes of the world, and those would be, hey, you got a smaller digital release. Well, I think Sony hopes for the inverse to ultimately be true, that the bulk of games are coming out digitally, and that's the only way to buy them, and every now and again you'll get a couple of games here and there come out physically. I think it'll take a while for it to shift that way. I think gaming is a little bit different than, you know, the other entertainment mediums, music, movies, and things of that nature. And even those, you get Blu-ray releases, you get CD releases, etc., etc. But in terms of people adopting all digital, it certainly is heading in that direction. And digital gaming, I think, whether or not you want to admit it, I think it's gonna be the future. And you see a lot of these physical games just be absolutely worthless as far as the content on disc. But again, from the Sony vantage point, I would have to think that they're looking at it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, yeah, $7.8 million drop in the bucket versus what we're gonna make 10 years from now when we control the whole store, when we are gonna be able to dictate all of the prices, or the third parties we're gonna be able to talk to them, and we're all gonna be able to dictate the prices and the discounts that are offered. There's gonna be no Black Friday that Walmart is going to be running or Amazon's going to be running, and they're going to have MGS Master Collection for $20, or they're going to have Infinite Wealth for $25. Let's just keep it in-house on the PlayStation Store. It's all $35, $40. We don't got to pay no middleman. We don't got to pay for production costs, as far as manufacturing costs, I should say. And I remember seeing over and over again, hey, why are the digital games the same amount? If they just go all digital, maybe they'll finally cut costs. Ha! On that one, look, once the $60, $70 price point is accepted, they're not gonna cut costs. And Alan Wake 2, cool that that game was $60 with the digital-only release. It was still $60. It's not like they gave you a significant savings, whereas they're cutting out the middleman. They're cutting out manufacturing costs. And in the case of, you know, Alan Wake, Black Myth, Wukong, those games ultimately got physical releases, but the bulk of those game sales came on the digital front, and I'm sure that Sony wants that to be the reality even more so going forward. If it's a 50-50 split, a 55-45 split right now, they would kill for a 75-25 split. And I think outside of just saving money, the PlayStation 5 Pro, for example, not having a disc drive is an opportunity to push people more so into that digital-only ecosystem and making that walled garden even more closed off. And look, when you buy all of these games digitally, you are even more invested into that ecosystem, because there's no opportunity for you to check out of that ecosystem by trading in all of your games or selling all of your games. No, they're locked to your account. They're all digital, and that is the value of digital gaming that a lot of people don't assess, as far as Sony having more control. And any entity that has a console, that's ultimately what they want. They want their users to be invested into that ecosystem, passively spending more and more money. The production on the exclusives, that's just them trying to draw you into their ecosystem. PlayStation doesn't really even have to worry about that as much as anymore, because they don't have a lot of competition, but they're just making money hand over fist passively. And if you think that at some point you're gonna be the beneficiary of them making a lot of money passively off all of these digital sales, you're kidding yourself. It's not gonna be the case. And hey, W's for Outer Worlds 2 going down to $70, but that is what we're celebrating. Games going down to $70. You think that just because a game is digital only, that a major publisher like an EA, a Ubisoft, a Square Enix, they're gonna cut their prices down to $40 for the next major Final Fantasy, or even $50? No, that's just not gonna happen. Those Ubisoft games are still gonna be $60, $70. Those Square Enix games still gonna be $60, $70 for, you know, major new games, not like Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered, but yeah, we won't be the beneficiaries of that. For its part, Sony had actually denied any wrongdoing, but added that it was setting to avoid the further expense and distraction of continued litigation. And again, you just want to wipe your hands of stuff like this, pay the $7.8 million in PlayStation Store credits, which was just gonna have people spend money on their ecosystem even more, and there would be value in that, and people would be even more invested into their ecosystem. But it's funny how all of that comes together. But that'll do it for me. Again, I don't think this story is gonna go anywhere as far as, well, what's it gonna change? You think that's gonna cause PlayStation to cut prices on the PlayStation Store? I just don't think that's happening. You know, people are paying the prices, and we live in a capitalistic society, so it is what it is. That's gonna do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.